What is enlightenment? What is its nature? Is it something beyond our mind?
In the name of enlightenment, we think the enlightenment is a strange thing that we are having some strange experiences. We have some better knowledge about the universe, better knowledge about the future and past. So we are thinking like that. So enlightenment, by the word enlightenment, we think it is a great thing. We do not take it as a simple thing, as an ordinary thing. So in the name of attaining some great ecstasy or experience, we are doing many things. We are doing many practices. We work hard. So the reason behind is the conception with regarding to enlightenment. But actually, it is not a great thing. That is why you and I can very easily attain enlightenment. It is not very difficult. It is very natural. You and I can very easily attain enlightenment. It is always with us. We are always with liberation, we are always with the enlightenment. Here, what is the difficulty that we have to consider is that we do not understand, we do not evaluate, we do not appreciate what is actually enlightenment is. We are unable to recognize what is liberation. Because we understand enlightenment, liberation on the light of the sayings of other persons. We follow the concepts of other person, and according to the concept of other person, we value what is enlightenment and what is liberation. So we miss the actual truth. We miss the reality of enlightenment. We miss the reality of liberation. The liberation in enlightenment is always with us. Only because of our wrong approach, we deny enlightenment and liberation moment by moment. We deny enlightenment and liberation each and every moment. Actually, it is always with us. We need not go after enlightenment. You need not search for liberation. The very search the very seeking is the denial of enlightenment. It is the denial of liberation. So now we have to understand what is enlightenment, what is liberation. Enlightenment is nothing but a intellectual understanding. The intellectual understanding is alone the great enlightenment. But can you understand? Can you accept? Is it correct? Can you feel it is an intellectual affair? But we have the concept that it cannot be an intellect affair. It is, we think it is some great thing. It is beyond our intellect. It is beyond our knowledge. It is beyond our thinking and everything. But actually, the understanding is a kind of, the understanding is also the kind of enlightenment. The enlightenment is a kind of understanding. But what we have to understand? For example, we are walking on the street in the night. Even though there is some light, but the light is not proper. And on the road, we find a beautiful belt placed on the road. And we exclaim how beautiful the belt is. And we think that somebody has lost the beautiful belt. Thinking like that, we take the belt in our hand, and when we take it in our hand, then only we find out it is not a belt, it is a snake. So when we understand it is not a belt and it is a snake, we immediately throw it away. We will not think which direction we have to throw it, which direction we have to place the snake. So the action is immediate. The understanding brings action. It is very immediate. It is very instantaneous. So the very understanding the wrong doings of our intellect, the very understanding about the misconception about enlightenment, the very understanding of what we are doing, the very understanding about the wrongdoings of our intellectual doings, and thereby it creates some new action. It opens a new dimension to the intellect. It opens a new dimension to the operation of our mind. And thereby our understanding creates liberation. So the understanding alone can create the liberation. So whatever creates the liberation, that we call it is enlightenment. So if we name anything as enlightenment, it must create liberation. So there may be many kind of understanding. So what kind of understanding that can create liberation, that alone can be considered as enlightenment. Now, what is enlightenment and what is liberation? Liberation is also considered that our Atma, our soul, our spirit must get liberation. So it is the concept that our soul, our Atman, our spirit alone get liberation. But it is not true. It is not the real truth. Our consciousness, our spirit, our soul, our Atman is always free. There is no necessity to get enlightenment, there is no necessity to get liberation for the Atman or the consciousness. It is always free. So the only thing which is confused is our intellect. So the intellect alone is the problem. The intellect alone is the nuisance. So you have to understand the false approach, the mistaken approach of our intellect. That means we have to understand our wrong ideas, we have to understand the wrong approach of ourselves. But what is the operation of our mind? What is the natural doings of our mind? Our mind thinks, our mind desires, our mind wants something, our mind tries to attain something. It is the nature of our mind to think, plan and work and thereby attain anything. So that is the way, that is the function of our mind. Only through our mind we plan, we think, and thereby we secure, we attain everything. So in this way, our intellect, our mind hears the sayings of other persons. So there is some great state like enlightenment, there is some great state like liberation, and it imagines it is something divine, it is something supreme, and it longs for that, and it works for that, and thereby we try to attain something. Thereby we want to receive something. So when we attain, so when you try to attain something, when we want to get anything, it really means that it is not within us. It is away from us. So that is the real meaning behind us. So when we seek anything, the very seeking implies that it is not within us. So our very approach take ourselves away from us. So our intellect takes us away from us. So because of our effort, because of our seeking, we are going against ourselves. So anybody seek anything, anybody is seeking something away from us, thereby we are lacking something. We feel as inadequate. So here what we have to understand, what we have to know is that the wrong approach of the concept of enlightenment, the concept of liberation. If you are seeing away anything away from us, if you are seeing something beyond us, we will not see the actual reality under the feet of ourselves. So the very seeking, the very effort denies the actuality, denies the reality. The necessary thing we have to understand here is the misleading aspect of our mind. The mind deceives itself. Our intellect deceives ourselves. The understanding of the deceptive nature of our mind, then alone we can understand what is enlightenment and what is liberation. You may know Ramana Maharishi is a saint. He tells a story. Once a thief enters into a house and the persons of the house sense the entry of the thief, and they shout, "Thief, thief," and thereby the nearby householders are crowding here and there in the street, and the thief wants to escape, and he tries to escape, and he runs here and there, and wherever he goes he finds there are some people searching the thief. But anyhow, we have to escape. Now he found a strategy. He also shouting, "Thief, thief." So shouting like that, he assumes the role that he is also trying to catch the thief. Thereby, he escapes from the scene, escapes from the field. So in the same way, our mind, our intellect survives only because of its effort to attain something, only because of its effort to get enlightenment, only because of its work for enlightenment and liberation. Thereby it deceives itself. Only because of the self-deception, the intellect, the mind continues to be in the same status. So when we are understanding, when we get the understanding that when we can understand that our mind is deceiving itself, when we are deceiving ourselves, then only our mind can enter into the different dimension. If we do not understand the deceptive nature of ourselves, we will go on doing the same mistake. So this is the first and last step, that we have to understand the deceptive nature of our mind. So when we understand the deceptive nature of our mind, naturally our mind will not do the same thing as it was doing in the past. It almost comes to a stop. because it understands all its efforts, all its trying, all its seeking are false, are not good. Thereby, it cannot move on the same way. It cannot seek the same thing again and again. So if you understand the falsehood of the seeking, it give up the seeking. So when we do not seek anything, when our mind do not seek anything, what happens? Then only our mind understand the mind is not responsible for the natural happenings. The natural happenings are happening on its own way. Nothing will remain as it is forever. Everything is in a regular flow. So when our mind do not interfere with the regular flow, our mind begins to know, begins to understand a different dimension, that everything is moving, everything is flowing. The flowing is not in the outer world, the flowing is in the inner world also. Our mind, our intellect, it is also flowing. Our mind is also flowing, our intellect is also flowing. So the mind enters into the different dimension when it does not seek anything, when it is not seeking anything, when it is not trying to attain anything. The regular mind, the ordinary mind is also flowing like the other thing. When we try to attain something, when we struggle for anything, it is a kind of a fight within itself. It is a kind of stagnation. It is a kind of vicious circle. It is a kind of eddy. So it is, if it is giving up all the effort, the mind itself is moving, the mind itself is flowing without any effort, without any seeking, without any demand. So our mind comes to a flowing state. So the flowing state of our mind is the liberated state. So the liberation is related only to our mind. When our mind flows like anything, when our mind flows like a river, It is the liberated mind. But this liberation will not happen because of our effort, because of our seeking. If we give up all our effort, if we give up all our seeking, then only this liberation is possible.